the mindset of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een and the Tabu'u Tabi'een regarding issuing, discussing knowledge, what their mindset was. Because I think today is a very big problem that we have. As soon as we have a small amount of knowledge, we think that we have all the knowledge, and we start to issue fatwa. We want everyone to come to us, and this is the fatwa, this is the fatwa. No, don't listen to those scholars. This is the fatwa, or I want my opinion to be heard. So this, especially in today, because of the culture. The culture is good, questioning, wanting to understand, because what we're taught in schools and college and university is very good. You need to question what you know. You need to understand it properly. But we have to understand what was the mindset of the Sahaba and those that after them regarding talking about religion, regarding issuing fatwa. So I was going through one of the books which I studied quite a while ago, and is very beneficial. So I'm going to mention some points regarding the Sahaba and Imam Shafi, Imam Abu Hanifa, and how they viewed, talking about religion. So one tabi'i, Uqba ibn Muslim, he says, قال صحبت ابن عمر 34 شهرا. This person, this tabi'i, he says that I stayed in the companionship of Abdullah ibn Umar, the famous Sahabi, for 34 months. فكثيرا ما كان يسأل فيقول لا أدري. So many times Abdullah ibn Umar would be asked regarding a question regarding religion, and he'd say لا أدري, I don't know. ثم يلتفت إلي فيقول, then Uqba ibn Muslim, he says, then Abdullah ibn Umar would turn towards me and he'd say, أتدري ما يريد هؤلاء? Do you know what these people want? I.e. the questioners. يريدون أن يجعلوا ظهورنا جسرا لهم إلى جهنم. They want to make our backs a bridge for them towards Jahannam. What he meant by that is, they just want us to come and ask us questions. They want us to do all their dirty work and give them the answer. So if we're wrong, If we're wrong, then all the sins to be on us, and they don't get any sins. Because al-ithmu ala man afta. The sin is on the person that gives the ruling. So sometimes we think it's very easy for us to talk about religious matters from our own perspectives, and we tell people to follow this. But the people that are following, they won't be at fault. The person that's issuing the verdict, telling them the wrong verdict, that person will be at fault, and that person will be sinful. And Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah is one of the greatest scholars of the past, great historian as well. He says, وَكَانَتِ الصَّحَابَةُ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ لَا تَكَادُ تُفْتِ إِلَّا فِي مَا نَزَلَ. So he's describing the condition of the Sahaba, how they were regarding knowledge. He says the Sahaba would only give fatwa regarding those things which have happened. They wouldn't hypothesize scenarios of the future. But then he says, ثِقَةً مِّنْهُمْ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى يُوَفِّقُ عِنْدَ النُّزُولِ الْحَاجَةِ الْجَوَابِ عَنْهَا. But then he says at the end, وَكَانَ كُلُّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمْ يَوَدُّ أَنَّ صَاحِبَهُ كَفَاهُ الْفَتْوَى. He says every companion wished that another person would suffice in issuing rulings. So he would want that no one should come to me, he should come to someone else. So I personally do not have to take that burden of telling the people their fatwas and religious rulings. They'd always want someone else to fulfill that obligation, because they were scared that what if I'm wrong? Now I will be taken to task from Allah. And then Khatib al-Baghdadi, he mentioned on the narration, and al-Bara ibn Azib radiallahu anhu, the Sahabi, he says, Bara ibn Azib, he says, لَقَدْ رَأَيْتُ 300 مِنْ أَهْلِ بَدْرٍ مَا مِنْهُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا وَهُوَ يُحِبُّ أَنْ يَكْفِيَهُ صَاحِبَهُ الْفَتْوَى. He says, Bara ibn Azib, the companion, he says, I met 300 of the participants of the Battle of Badr. And the reason why I said they were the greatest Muslims, the people that participated in the Battle of Badr, he says, I met 300 of them. And he said, the quality which I found in every one of them was that they would want another companion to suffice in issuing rulings to the people, to discuss, religion, the laws and all these things. He'd want someone else to suffice. And Imam Shafi rahimahullah, one of the greatest jurists of the past, he says, مَا رَأَيْتُ أَحَدًا جمع الله فيه من آلة الفتية ما جمع في ابن عيينة أسكت عن الفتية منه. He says regarding Sufyan ibn Uyayna, who's one of the greatest muhaddithin and fuqaha of the tabi'in, Imam Shafi, he says, I have not found anyone more worthy of giving fatwa than Sufyan ibn Uyayna. But Sufyan ibn Uyayna, he would be the most silent out of everyone else. He would be the most silent. And then وعن سفيان ibn Uyayna, this statement from Sufyan ibn Uyayna, he says, أعلم الناس بالفتوى أسكتهم فيه. the most knowledgeable of people in regarding religion are those that are most silent. Because they're scared to reveal their own opinions. They're the knowledgeable people. وَأَجْهَلُ النَّاسِ, most ignorant of all people, بِالْفَتْوَى أَنْتَقُهُمْ فِيهِ. Those are always talking all the time. This is my opinion. But this is Mullah Sahib's opinion, this is the Imam's opinion, but my opinion is this. He said these are the most ignorant of all people. When Bishr ibn Harith, he states, Man ahabba ay yus'al. Whoever has this desire that he should be asked. I have in this desire, people should come and ask me because I have so much knowledge. Whoever has this desire within them, فَلَيْسَ بِأَهْلٍ أَن يُسْأَلْ. That person is not worthy of being asked by the people. That person is not worthy. Ata ibn Sa'ib, he says, these are all the salaf, the scholars from after the Sahaba's time. He says, قال أدركت أقواما إن كان أحدهم يسأل عن الشيء فيتكلم وإنه ليرعد. He said, I've met a group of people, talking about the Sahaba Tabi'in, talking about the Tabi'in. He says, I've met a group of people that when one of them would be asked regarding a matter of deen, فيتكلم, they would speak, وإنه ليرعد, but they'll be shaking out of fear. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? وعن الأشعث and Muhammad ibn Sirin, one of the greatest scholars of the past, Ibn Sirin, he says, كان إذا سئل عن شيء من الفقه الحلال والحرام تغير لونه. He says that when they were asked regarding something from fiqh, the matters of halal and haram, تغير لونه. His face, the color of his face was changed. وتبدل حتى كأنه ليس بالذي كان. He'd seem as if he's a total different person. So when they be asked regarding matters of halal and haram. And one of the students of Imam Malik, rahimahullah, he says, Wallahi, I swear by Allah, in kana Malik idha su'ila an mas'alatin, when Imam Malik would be asked regarding a question, كَأَنَّهُ وَاقِفٌ بَيْنَ الْجَنَّةِ وَالنَّارِ, be as if he is stood between Jannah and Jahannam. That's how much fear he'd have. He know if I get it wrong, Jahannam. If I get it right, he'd think of Jannah, that the rewards, the ajr that I'd get. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu an قال إنكم تستفتوننا استفتاء قوم كأننا لا نسأل عما يفتيكم. Another statement of Abdullah ibn Umar. He says that you people ask us regarding matters of religion, thinking as if we're not going to be asked regarding our responses that we give to you. So he's trying to say that talking regarding the matters of religion is not something which is light. The famous student of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, his student Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi, has a book, إعلام الموقعين, amazing book, إعلام الموقعين, or أعلام الموقعين. The translation of the title is this, the sign of the muwaqqi'in. Muwaqqi'in means to write a signature, to sign something off. So the title of his book is The Signs of Those Who Are Writing a Signature, i.e. on behalf of Allah. Because when you're issuing a verdict in Islam or talking about the matters of religion, indirectly who are we attributing to? We're attributing to Allah. So in other words, when I say, no, this is fine, or this is okay in religion, this is haram in religion, I'm saying that according to Allah, this is the verdict and this is what Allah wants you to do right now, and you are signing this document and giving it to that person, this is what Allah wants you to do. And that's the title of his book, and then it brings all the conditions of those that are permissible for them to issue verdicts in Islam, etc., etc., etc. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, we all know Imam Abu Hanifa, one of the greatest jurists from amongst this ummah, he says, لَوْلَا الْفَرَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ أَن يَضِيعَ الْعِلْمِ. He says, if it wasn't because of the fear that knowledge will be lost, مَا أَفْتَيْتُ أَحَدًا, I will not issue a verdict to anyone. This is Imam Abu Hanifa. This is the fear that he had. It wasn't because of the fear that knowledge would be wasted and the next generation would not have knowledge, I wouldn't have issued a single fatwa. يَكُونُ لَهُ الْمَهْنَةِ, for him, وَعَلَيَّ الْوِزْرِ, for him is ease, the questioner, وَعَلَيَّ الْإِزْرِ, and all the burden is upon me. If I'm wrong, Allah's going to take me to task. Abu Sa'id Abdus Salam, he's one of the great students of Imam Malik. He says, أَشْقَى النَّاسِ مَنْ بَاعَ آخِرَتَهُ بِدُنْيَاهُ. The worst of all people, he says, are those that sell their akhirah for the benefit of the dunya. So first thing he says, the worst people are those who, for the benefit of the world, they forget about the akhirah. And says, وَأَشْقَى مِنْهُ, even worse than that person, is مَنْ بَاعَ آخِرَتَهُ بِدُنْيَا غَيْرِهِ, who sells his akhirah for the dunya, not of himself, for someone else's dunya. So he sells his own akhirah to make someone else's dunya easier for them. قال الحافظ ابن صلاح رحمه الله, one of the great scholars of the past, he says after I read this, he said after I came across the statement of him, so I was wondering, who is this person that sells his akhirah for the benefit of someone else's dunya? And he comes to the conclusion that it's that person who's asked a question regarding a religious matter, and he just issues the verdict to him to make his life easier for him. I know this is an easy opinion, take that. And this person is wrong. So he's sold his own akhirah just to make someone else's dunya easy for them. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, one of the famous Shafi scholars of the past, he says, he brings a quote of Abdul Rahman ibn Abi Layla. He says, أَدْرَكْتُ 20 وَمِئَةً مِنَ الْأَنصَارِ الصَّحَابَةِ التَّابِعِي. He says, I saw 120 from amongst the Ansar of the Sahaba. يُسْأَلُ أَحَدُهُمْ عَنِ الْمَسْأَلَةِ. Every one of them would be asked regarding a question. فَيَرُدُّهَا هَذَا إِلَى هَذَا. When one of them would be asked, he'll say, okay, go to that person. He'll go to that person and say, no, go to that person, don't ask me. When he goes to that person, say, no, go to that person, don't ask me. حَتَّى تُرْفَعَ إِلَى الْأَوَّلِ, until the question will be forced to come back to the first person, because he's the most knowledgeable. Another instance, Umayr ibn Sa'ad. He says, لَقَدْ سَأَلْتُ عَلْقَمَةً. Alqamah was one of the great tabi'is of the past. He's one of the scholars of Ibrahim al-Nakhai, one of the teacher students of Ibrahim al-Nakhai. So he asked Alqamah regarding a matter in religion. So Alqamah said to him, فَقَالْ إِتِّ عُبَيْدَ فَسَلْهُ. He said, go to Ubaydah and ask him. And the person, his name was Umayr ibn Sa'id. So he went to Alqamah sent him to go to Ubaydah. So he went to Ubaydah, and Ubaydah said to him, go to Alqamah, what are you coming to me for? And then Ubaydah, he told him that, فَقُلْتُ عَلْقَمَةُ أَرْسَلَنِي إِلَيْكَ. Alqamah was the one that sent me to you, so I can't go back to him. And then so Ubaydah, he told him, إِتِّ مَسْرُوقًا. These were all great tabi'is of the past. He said, go to Masruq, فَسَلْهُ, and ask him. Then he said, فَأَتَيْتُ مَسْرُوقًا. I went to Masruq, فَسَأَلْتُ, and I asked him regarding the matter. And Masruq said to him, فَقَالْ إِتِّ عَلْقَمَةَ فَسَلْهُ. Go to Alqamah and ask him. So he sent him to the first one originally. And then he says, فَقُلْتُ, I said to Masruq, Alqamatu أَرْسَلَنِي إِلَىٰ عُبَيْدَ وَعُبَيْدَ أَرْسَلَنِي إِلَيْكَ. Alqamah sent me to Ubaydah, and then Ubaydah sent me to you. So he told him the whole story. قال فأتي عبد الرحمن بن أبي ليلى. Then he said, okay, go to Abdul Rahman ibn Abi Layla. فأتيت عبد الرحمن ibn Abi Layla. So he says, I came to Abdul Rahman ibn Abi Layla. فسألته فكرهه. Then I asked him, and he disliked it. That he went to him and asked him. ثم رجعت إلى علقمة فأخبرته. Then I went back to Alqamah and I told him the whole incident. I sent to Ubaydah, then I sent to Masruq, then I sent to Abdul Rahman ibn Abi Layla. قال كان يقال أجرأ القوم على الفتية أدناهم علما. And this is a statement that we all need to remember. He says, Alqamah, he said, أجرأ القوم على الفتية, the most daring of those people in issuing fatwa, or those people that race towards issuing fatwa, the illness that we have today. He says, the people that are racing towards issuing fatwa, أدناهم علما, are the least knowledgeable people. Are the least knowledgeable people. And in Sha'abi, another statement, Sha'abi rahimahullah says, إن أحدكم لا يفتي في المسألة ولو وردت على عمر بن الخطاب لجمع لها أهل بدر. He says, many of you give a religious verdict regarding a mas'ala, and he says, if this same mas'ala was to come in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, he would have gathered the participants of Badr and done mashura with them before issuing a verdict. Saying the importance of consulting others before just coming to our own conclusions. And the list goes on, but I'm not going to read them. So the purpose of mentioning this is to understand where we are today and where the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the Tabi'in. We always talk about, we need to follow the Sahaba, the salaf, the pious predecessors before us, but this was the manhaj of the pious predecessors of the past. How careful they were regarding their what they would say. But today it seems like the more we speak with the less knowledge that we have, the more following we get. And that's why the Prophet the first hadith I mentioned last week is the Prophet said that حَتَّى لَا يَبْقَى عَالِمًا, that the ulama will not, the scholars, the true scholars will not remain. فَيَتَّخِذُ النَّاسُ رُؤُوسًا جُهَالًا, the people will take ignorant people as their leaders. فَسُئِلُوا, and these ignorant people that haven't studied the Sharia, they haven't spent years and years mastering Arabic, grammar, rhetoric, they haven't spent years studying hadith, tafsir. These people, they'll be asked regarding matters of religion. فَأَفْتَوْا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ, they'll talk about religion without having any knowledge. فَضَلُّوا وَضَلُّوا, they'll be misguided and they'll misguide others as well. So that was something I thought was important to share. Any questions before I move on to the next topic? Okay, so we have one narration that the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-ithmu ala man afta, the sin is on the person that issues the ruling. So we have that one hadith on one hand. So it's the person that gets it wrong, the sin is on them, not the person that's following. Because the person that doesn't have knowledge, he's not at fault, he's just following someone that he trusts. That's the first thing. Second thing is, we have once, for example, there's one hadith that a group of people came to the Prophet ﷺ, and I forgot the name of the Sahabi. There's a Sahabi with the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahabi, "Iqdi baynahuma," arbitrate between them. You tell me who's right and who's wrong. And then the Sahabi said, he said, should I judge between them while you are present? And then the Prophet ﷺ told him that whoever gets the right verdict, he'll have 2 rewards, and whoever gets it wrong, they'll have 1 reward. The 1 reward for trying, and if you get it right, then that's 2 rewards. And another narration, you get 1 reward if you get it wrong, and 10 rewards for getting it correct. So that's the first thing. We've got 2 hadith on the opposite sides, isn't it? So the answer to this is, if a person has the ability of ijtihad within them. Ijtihad is going directly to the Quran, to Sunnah, or in the books of fiqh, and the aqwal of the Sahaba and the Tabi'in, etc., who have mastered the Arabic. These all ijtihad is taking out ahkam and rulings from the Quran and Sunnah. So whoever has that capability within them, not everyone does, only very few individuals, for them, if they exert all their ability to derive at a conclusion because they possess that knowledge. So if someone doesn't possess that knowledge and they do ijtihad, they're at fault straight away. So if I try and do my own ijtihad and I try to go back to Quran and Hadith, I don't have that knowledge. Now, if I come to a wrong conclusion, I will be sinful because I don't have that capability. I don't have the tools of ijtihad. I haven't mastered Arabic grammar. I haven't mastered syntax, morphology. I haven't mastered tafsir, hadith. I haven't mastered, fiqh. There's so much. Now, if I do my own ijtihad and I come arrive at a conclusion and it's wrong, I'll be sinful. But now, a person that does have the capability to do ijtihad, now if they get it wrong, they won't be sinful. Like the Sahabi, the Prophet told him, the Prophet knew he was extremely knowledgeable. He was able to arbitrate between them. So the Prophet told him, because he has the level of ijtihad, so if he gets it wrong, he won't be sinful. Now going back to the scholars, now Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, Imam Abu Hanifa, all the Sahaba, didn't they have levels of ijtihad? Of course they did. But that was their taqwa and humility. That, what if I don't? What if I'm wrong? So it's just a level of fear. Not everyone has to have that level of fear. It's just that's what level they were at. That it was their taqwa and their humility that I'm not worthy of this position. Imam Malik, he says, I did not give fatwa until 70 of the ulama testified that I'm worthy of this position. Imagine that. I did not issue a ruling until 70 of the greatest ulama testified that I'm worthy. So that was their precaution. Obviously Imam Malik, he was the greatest scholar of the time. He could have just started... Okay, that's a good question. So firstly, it's like Imam Malik, he said, so we can take this from Imam Malik. So he said he did not issue fatwa until the ulama of his time testified to him. Being a mufti or a person that's fit or worthy of issuing rulings will be according to the testimony of the ulama of his time. Does that make sense? So if the ulama see that person as fit to issue fatwa and worthy of that position, then you'll say, okay, this person is capable of doing that. But if, let's say, I come along one day and I start issuing my own fatwas and it's going against all the ulama and all the ulama are refuting me because I have no basis, then it shows that I'm not fit for this position. Normally when a person has that acceptance of their knowledge, the acceptance of that person will be in the hearts of the rest of the people. That's what normally happens. But if you're not worthy in that position, then those people, it's the same as in any field. Let's say I'm a doctor, and I start saying all these weird things. Now all the other doctors will refute me, this person doesn't know what he's talking about. But let's say if I have that high level of knowledge, and I start coming up with my formulas, then the people will analyze it, hey, this person does make sense. And people will start agreeing with me, other ulama. So it's just same as in any other field. When the people of that same profession, they agree to you and they see you're worthy of that position, because many of my scholars, my teachers I mean, they have many different opinions, and they go against the madhab here, they go against the majority of the ulama. But because everyone has taken that person, and everyone knows the level, the knowledge of that person, so they'll say, okay, that's his opinion, and they'll attribute it to him, and he's rightful to have that opinion. So what it is, that's why, like even in the Hanafi, like Ibn Abidin, one of the greatest Hanafi scholars of the time, like if you do not study his book, you cannot become a Hanafi Mufti. That's how important he is. So what he says, فَالْعَمِّيُّ لَا مَذْهَبَ لَهُ. He says an Ami, a non-scholar, he does not have a madhab. If an Ami, a non-scholar, he says, I have a madhab, I follow this madhab, I follow the madhab, he's lying. He doesn't understand the opinions of Imam Hanifa, he doesn't understand the difference of opinion within the Hanifa madhab. The non-scholar, he hasn't studied the principles of fiqh, the principles of issuing fatwa, he hasn't studied any of that. So when he attributes himself to a madhab, he does not have a madhab. That's the first thing. So the job of so Ibn Taymiyyah as well, I was reading Ibn Taymiyyah as well, I was reading his Majmu' al-Fatawa and different places. He says a person is either a mujtahid or a muqallid. There is no in between. You're either mujtahid, you have the tools of ijtihad, you can go directly into the Quran Sunnah and issue verdicts, or you're muqallid, or you're a follower of a mujtahid, or an imam. So the job of a muqallid is to follow a scholar that he trusts, someone that he has easily access to. So let's say a local imam or someone, whoever you trust. You have to trust his piety and you trust him in his knowledge. And what you just stick to that scholar. And that is the safest position for any muqallid, because even if your scholar's wrong, then you're not to blame. Even if he tells you a complete different ruling, your job as a muqallid has been fulfilled by asking, isn't it? So, and I apply that principle to, let's say you're in a Salafi area and your local imam is a Salafi and you trust him in his knowledge, you trust him in his piety, follow him. Because your job as a muqallid is just to follow someone knowledgeable. So if he's the scholar that you have access to, follow him. If you're in a Barelvi area and your main imam is a Barelvi and you trust him in his knowledge, follow his fatwa. If he tells you to pray salah like this, do wudu like, follow him. Because your job as a muqallid isn't to do research, isn't to go into the Quran and Hadith, find out who's right and wrong, because you don't have the capability to figure out who's right and who's wrong. Your job is just to ask. So if the muqallid just does the job, then that'll be fine. But normally what happens is when our shahawat and our desires come in, my local imam's opinion is quite hard, let me go find an easier opinion. So that's what you call ittiba' al-hawa. And it's haram. Ibn Abidin rahimahullah, he writes in the Sharh Uqudi Rasul Mufti, he says the scholars are unanimous that it's haram to follow your desires in the matters of religion. You should not be going for the easiest opinion there, easiest opinion there, because you're not following Sharia, you're following your desires. And the other question, because this is quite a very delicate matter, and it's always the safest to stick to the opinion of the majority. Especially, just logically, if the ummah has been upon one thing for 1,000 years, 600, 700, 800 years, it's very unlikely that all the mujtahideen of the past, all the ulama of the past will be wrong. And now this imam comes, a person with all due respect, and he says he issues a verdict which is completely opposes the majority of the ummah. So, and then we stick to this isolated opinion as if this is the only right opinion. And as if, for 1,000 years all the scholars were wrong, but this one person had come new now, and his is the only right opinion. And you stick to this and you start refuting all the rest of the majority, which is a complete wrong mentality. If, for example, you believe that opinion to be right, understand that it is opposing the majority, and stay silent. Follow the opinion, because if you believe that's the right opinion, but don't start criticizing the rest of the ummah. It's completely ridiculous. And especially when it's an isolated opinion, which is new. And many of us, we do this with Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah's opinions. He was a mujtahid. Like when you actually read into his fiqh, his level of understanding of fiqh, that he used to know the madahib, all of the madhabs better than their own ulama knew their madhab. So he was a mujtahid. He was very high in his status and his knowledge in all the fields. But as a human being, you make mistakes. All the scholars would make mistakes. Imam Abu Hanifa, he had mistakes. That's why many of his students, actually, Imam Abu Hanifa's students, opposed him in 3/4 of the madhab. Imam Abu Hanifa's main students were Imam Abu Yusuf, Imam Muhammad, there's Imam Zufar, there's Hassan ibn Ziyad, and then there's many others. But these main students, they opposed Imam Abu Hanifa in so many masail, in his principles of fiqh as well, not just his just some small fatwas here and there. They opposed him in his principles of fiqh as well. So Imam Abu Hanifa, he could be wrong, and even till today, Hanafi madhab is not just based upon the fiqh of Imam Abu Hanifa, it's based upon the fiqh of his students and their students and their students. It's which forms a principle for the muftis today. So you can even say half of the madhab is not based upon the fiqh of Imam Abu Hanifa, it's based upon the students' fiqh. So it's an ideology that was passed down, and it's principle of fiqh which was passed down throughout their students. So Imam Abu Hanifa, we agree that he could be wrong. That's a good question. It depends on it completely depends on the level of his students. Imam Abu Hanifa's students, Imam Muhammad, Imam Yusuf, they were mujtahids exactly on the same level as Imam Abu Hanifa. Just because they were his students does not mean they were any less than Imam Abu Hanifa. Within the Hanafi fiqh, when you study usul al-ifta, principle given fatwa, we understand that they attributed themselves to a teacher out of respect. They still said, we are the students of Imam Hanifa, out of respect for him, because they gained a lot of his knowledge from Imam Hanifa. But it was not a hierarchy. Imam Hanifa has the highest level of knowledge, and then their students, they were on the same level as their teacher. That's why they had the ability to disagree with their teacher, and even refute their teacher. So it depends on the level of the student. Now, if myself, for example, I'd be very cautious in refuting my teacher or going against him, because I know my teachers had 20, 30, 40 years of experience. I've only had 8 years of experience regarding this. Now he's coming from 40 years of experience, and I'm with my 80 years of experience. So I'll be very cautious of when I go against my teacher and I refute it. But let's say if it's an opinion regarding, let's say it's a new situation where I know my teacher, even though he's got so much experience, but this is a new situation and he's from, let's say, from the Indian subcontinent, so he will not understand, and he issues a ruling. There, I'll be a bit more braver to go against his opinion, because I know, because of the lack of knowledge from his side. So it's just completely, that's a very good question, and that's completely up to how the student does that. I'll give you an example. Mawlana Ashraf Ali Tanwi, from like the 1800s, we all know him, one of the greatest scholars of the Indian subcontinent. So in the ruling in the Hanafi fiqh is, let's say when a wife, the husband goes missing. The ruling in the Hanafi fiqh is, so now the question is, when will she be considered divorced? She doesn't know if her husband passed away, she doesn't know if he's alive somewhere, and it's the husband that issues the divorce, isn't it? So that was the question. The Hanafi fiqh in this particular issue is, you have to wait until everyone in his age would have passed away. So when you're pretty 80% certain that he would have passed away, only then you'll consider yourself divorced, and then she can remarry. That is the Hanafi fiqh over here. So this was very, very difficult, of course, to act upon. It's just a very, based upon a principle, and this is when you apply it to the principle, this is the way you get from the principle. So Mawlana Ashraf Ali Tanwi is like, this is very difficult to act upon. And it must have been happening frequently in India, in many places. So what he done was, instead of just going against all of his teachers and the madhab just like that, what he done was, first he got together, he researched the madhab, are there any leeways of following a different madhab in his situation. So can we go to Imam Malik's madhab? We said wait a few years and then consider yourself, go to a judge and get the marriage divorced. Can we go to that? So what he done was, he researched the masala properly. He researched the Maliki fiqh properly. So everything was done in research. And he didn't just issue the fatwa himself. He went to all the major institutes in India at the time, and he sat with them. And so each institute sat with them. This is the situation. This is the Hanafi fiqh. This is the Maliki fiqh. Do you agree that this is a need at this time to leave the Hanafi madhab and go to the Maliki fiqh? This Mufti would read through research, do his own research, and he'll give his approval. Because the Mufti, he's realized he'd done the same thing with that institute, so he got the approval of all the seniors of his time. And after discussing with the Maliki Muftis as well, and then he issued the fatwa that now we need to go out of the madhab and we follow the Maliki madhab over here. Who would refute him? No one. But if he just boldly said, no, the Hanafi madhab is too difficult here, I'm going to give fatwa otherwise. No one would listen to you. The same muftis that sign that, no one would listen to you. Now, for example, in issue in the UK, if I see something and I say, no, all these muftis are wrong, this is the right opinion, who's going to listen to me? No one is going to listen to me. What I need to do is, I need to go to other scholars that may be similar age, similar mindset, and to speak to them. This is an issue that we're facing. Do you agree with this? This is the research. These are the dalail. Do you think and do you see a need to move away from our teacher's opinion and follow this new opinion? And if they're muftis and they'll have knowledge, then they'll sit down and entertain it. Now, if let's say most of these people are saying yes, then you can go with that. So now if someone refutes me, you're not just refuting me, you're saying you're refuting all of these guys. So when I issue this new fatwa, I'm not saying I'm doing it, I'm saying all these muftis behind me are doing it. Does that make sense? But if I just said, no, all my teachers are wrong, this is a fatwa, not a single person will be listening to me. So it's about respect and how you do it. So if you don't have respect and just, they're all wrong, no one's going to listen to you. But if you do it with respect, take the correct approach, then it will benefit.